ISO 27001 Annex A 5.28 collection of evidence. Right, we finally arrived at collection of evidence. I've touched on this in a number of tutorials up until this point. This particular Annex A control looks specifically at the collection of evidence, and I know some people get a bit concerned and a bit worried about it. Let's have a little look at the definition and then how you implement it. So the organization should establish and implement procedures for the identification, collection, acquisition, preservation of evidence related to information security events. Now, this one has two approaches to it, right? There is your standard collection of evidence, right? That forms part of your incident management. How do you identify things that occurred, the evidences that support the incident, that help you with the root cause and help you to understand it? Then there is collection of significant evidence. Now, significant evidence is evidence that's going to be required as part of some kind of formal process, such as a disciplinary process, a HR disciplinary process, or a legal process, a criminal investigation, a civil investigation, something that goes along with that. And the way that you tackle both of those is going to be slightly different. So, what the standard is going to require is you're going to need a policy. I provide you with a policy. There's a blog and a guide and a video on that policy if you want to write that policy yourself. The way that I go about this specifically is, and it seems a little bit of a get out, but for small organizations without the resources, the process is to call in the professionals, right? This is a profession in its own right. There are things that are required when you collect evidence for criminal proceedings and disciplinary proceedings, things around chain of custody, things around the qualification of the person to do it. There are things where we have to prove that the evidence, the data, the system is as it was at that point, that you haven't done anything that could affect that, and that could then impact the result of any further proceedings. The quickest, easiest, best way to do it is say, do you know what? In the event that something looks so big and so bad, I'm going to bring in the professionals. If I have a ransomware attack, I'm going to bring in the ransomware professionals, because that ultimately may lead to either a HR or a legal process. If I have something where I suspect that an individual in the organization may or may not have done something, I'm going to bring in the professionals, right? The minute that you touch evidence and you're not qualified, experienced, trained, you don't follow forensic processes and procedures, you taint the evidence and you put whatever outcome is at risk, right? So this is quite a serious one. So for me, if I was implementing this, I'd differentiate between my normal incident management. I'd have some kind of an assessment that says this is a significant event, a significant incident, by which I mean it could result in a formal process, HR or legal, and at that point I would bring in the professionals. I would have a document that had identified who those professionals were. I would potentially have made contact with them to make them know that potentially they're going to be a supplier of ours. It is the case that you could get a lot of that administration and paperwork done up front, right? You could have terms of engagement agreed. You could have a contract agreed even before you part with any money, but at least you've got them ready and they form part of your process and it's ready to go at the point that you need them. There are specific requirements when it comes to the collection of evidence, right? So there is a process about identifying it, collecting it, acquiring it, and preserving it. And when implementing it, you've got to ensure that evidence and records are complete, have not been tampered with, that they are identical to the originals, and evidence from systems was from systems operating as intended at the time of collection. So, profession in its own right, professionals out there that do this for a living, having a little bit of a dabble at it, you're probably going to end up messing it up, or you're not going to get the outcome that you hope for. If the outcome that you hope for was the result of a formal process such as HR or legal proceedings, right? So the simplest way, have yourself a policy. Get yourself a topic specific policy for the collection of evidence. Implement a process that outsources the collection of evidence to an appropriate, qualified, certified, pre-vetted supplier at the earliest opportunity, and incorporate that process into your information security management process. That's how I would go about it. There are different ways of doing it. If you have a team, if you have people in your organization that are trained and qualified and have got experience, then you can document exactly what it is that you would do. But for high level, quick, easy wins, let's get the professionals in at the point that we need the professionals. So that was ISO 27001 Annex A 5.28 collection of evidence. The blog that goes with it has a bit more detail actually, so you can click the link below. There's a bit more detail in there that goes around that. But for now, I am Stuart Barker. I am the ISO 27001 Ninja. I am walking you through the Annex A controls and your implementation. So until the next tutorial, peace out.